Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for attending this afternoon. We are so excited to provide you with this opportunity to learn more. As leaders in early learning, you have a big responsibility, and the way things have changed and the demand and all of that has really increased. And so we just wanted to give you an opportunity to have some learning and see some different things that are out there now, as well as some things you can take right back to your classroom. And of course, as we mentioned, you're going to have some goodies just for spending some time with us today. So I just want to introduce myself. I'm Melissa Biego. I am the North Texas representative for Hand to Mind. I live in Denton, Texas, just north of the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and am surrounded by a team of Hand to Mind colleagues on this call that will be jumping in and out throughout the afternoon. But I just wanted to take you through a few things before we get started with our first session. So just a few housekeeping as there we go. So just a little bit of housekeeping. I do want you to know that we are in webinar mode, so you don't have to worry about muting or unmuting. Everybody's just automatically muted. However, we are more than welcome to let you talk. So if you just raise your hand, we can unmute you so that you can speak. Make sure that you have your chat set to everyone. Sometimes the default is hosts and panelists, and we want to make sure everybody's able to see your responses in the chat. Our presenters today are going to do some engaging activities with using the chat, as well as discussion. So please use that chat as much as you want to, or raise your hand and we will unmute you. So the most important thing is we want you to have fun, be involved, and leave today just feeling like you spent an afternoon well spent with us. So now we want to know a little bit about you. So because of that, we're going to take a couple of polls. Okay. So the first one is, I'd like to know what kind of Zoomer you are. Are you the person that's walking around the house or their office right now? Did you maybe just wake up from a nap, or did this morning? Not a fan of having the camera on, the one who's always talking, or the one who does funny faces? That way we have a better feel of our audience right now. Don't you think, Jennifer? I thought that would be fun. Love it. I've still got responses coming in, so I don't want to stop just yet. Okay, let's see. So most of us don't like having our camera on. That's probably true. I think it's funny that no one admitted that they've never gotten on a Zoom after just waking up. I'm guilty of it, but I can't be the only one. But I love it. I love it. So thank you so much for sharing. And then I have one more question for you. And that is, which superpower would you like to have? Would you like to be a mind reader, be invisible, teleportation, flying, or if it's something different, just drop it in the chat. We would love to know. Jennifer, what would yours be?
I think I'm already a mind reader, so maybe the whole invisibility thing. I think that might be up my alley.
I, especially recently, would love to be able to just teleport myself from one place to another, because my children are so busy right now that would be really make my life a lot easier. So about 2 more seconds. We have a couple more people responding.
Oh, I love Leanne. She said, be able to talk to animals. I think I already do that anyway too. So, but yes. I love that. I would like to hear what they have to say as well.
I do. We always wonder what they're thinking, you know, like, so, all right, let's see here. Teleporting is the most popular, but they're all really pretty close to each other. So thank you so much for, indulging me in this today. I am, I don't know if, there we go. Let me close out of that. And the reason that I wanted to ask you what superpower you might have is because, as you saw when we started sharing about this event, we were talking about growth mindset. And I love when children are young, how they want to be superheroes and they can think that they believe, and as they should, that they can do anything and they have these powers. And that's what growth mindset is all about. It's about embracing challenges and building resilience and cultivating that self-belief in yourself. But when we're an early learner, how does that help us? And that's what we're going to spend this afternoon on. When our early learners have a growth mindset, they enjoy learning new things and they view challenges with enthusiasm. They get so excited. They develop problem-solving skills, increase their curiosity, and build confidence. And the reason that Hand to Mind is the one that wanted to bring this to you today is because our why is learning by doing. And we believe students and children learn best by doing. And that enables them to build that growth mindset to help them become more and more successful. So just a quick thing about our agenda today. We're gonna start with Jennifer in just a second with our first session on connecting assessment to growth mindset. We will take a break and do door prizes. Then Kevin Dykema will speak on productive struggle in the early learning math classroom and do another break and door prizes, because I was a former teacher. I love giving away door prizes. Building a growth mindset with STEM with Tasha Hofert, and then another break and door prizes. And then Jennifer will wrap up with the last session, developing routines in the early learning math and literacy classroom. And I'll come back on and give away some really big door prizes at the end. So you want to try to be on at the end as much as possible. And we know your schedules are very demanding. So if you have to jump off and jump back on, please do so. Now, I know you already registered to attend, but you have to be on live to actually win a door prize today. So if you would scan that QR code, and there's a reason that it's asking you for your address. And that's because you're gonna get a box of Hand to Mind early learning swag. Everyone that attends live today is gonna get a goodie box in the mail from us. So we want that mailing address. It can be your home address or school or office, whatever is most convenient for you. But we wanna make sure that we get it to the correct place. We will put that up there again before we give away the first door prize. So, and I'll also put the link in the chat here in just a second. All right, with that, I'm gonna go ahead and introduce our first presenter. For our first session, we are so excited to have Jennifer Burchfiel. Jennifer and I started working together as partners a few years ago in Dallas ISD, and I just adore her and have learned so much from her. She is now retired from Dallas ISD, where she served as the Early Learning Strategy Director for the district. She's been in education for over 35 years as a teacher, a campus coach, district math and language arts coordinator, and instructional strategy director. In addition to doing consulting like this, she's also an adjunct professor at University of Texas Tyler, working with pre-service teachers. Her passion for teaching reading, writing, and math has been evident in her work, and she seeks ideas and strategies that teachers can implement quickly and effectively in their classrooms. Please welcome Jennifer as she starts our symposium off today by connecting assessment to growth mindset.
Hello, everyone. I am so excited to be here. I see a lot of my fabulous friends out there, and I hope to make some more friends. And as I am talking, I'm sharing my screen and getting everything situated. So give me just a second. And I'm thrilled to be able to spend the afternoon or part of the afternoon with early learning educators. This is my passion, is still my passion, even though I have retired, although my kids keep saying, I thought you were retired, Mom. Well, I'm semi-retired. That's what I'm moving into now. So I'm so excited to be here and partnering with Hand to Mind on this early learning learning symposium. I don't even think I got that all right. Anyway, so I want to talk with you for the next about 50 minutes or so about connecting assessment to growth mindset. And before I do, one of the things that I love about Hand to Mind is always talking about your why. And I know we could poll all of you in this Zoom right now about your why, and it could be so many different things. That student that really touched you along the way, somehow, what is your why? So I'm going to share with you my why to get us started off. Of course, my why is my beautiful family, which I am just adore completely. My wonderful husband of almost 35 years, high school sweetheart. He still puts up with me. I should say the same about him too. My beautiful bride, my oldest daughter, just got married, my fourth grade middle daughter, who's a fourth grade teacher. So it is fantastic to be able to have teacher talk anytime I want to. And not everybody else likes that, but we love it. And I'm also very lucky to be able to be in her classroom almost every single week, working with her kids as well. So I haven't gotten to lose that sight either. My spunky youngest daughter, who is a graduate student, working to become a mental health provider, and then my fabulous new son-in-law. I am thrilled to be able to say that I now have a son in the family. My husband is much more thrilled than I am. So of course, this is why I get up every single day. But why I'm an educator is this right here. You all, this is something else. This child of mine who I had, Megan Rose, about 7 years ago when she was in the first grade. And she was that kid in your class that I never really worried about leaving if I had to be off, if I was sick and I had a sub take over, because Megan could just like fill in. We didn't really need to even have that sub. That was Megan for you. So what's wonderful about Megan is she is now a published author. And I try to tell everybody I know that one of my students is a published author, and this is her brand new book that has come out last fall called Rescuing Rumba. And it is about her dog that she rescued in the Dominican Republic when she was on vacation there. It is a darling, precious book. I have just found out that it is the top of the list in South America right now, which is fantastic. And it's available everywhere. You can buy it at Target, you can buy it on Amazon, you can probably buy it at every kind of bookstore around. But if you're looking to support an author, a new author, then pick this book up by Megan Rose. Darling, darling. So I got to see her just a few weeks ago. She lives in New York City, and I did get to see her just a few weeks ago with one of her rescue dogs, not Rumba, but she had come in town to do a session with kids at an elementary school about her book. And it was just wonderful to be able to see how this has changed her life. She's got another book coming out. She's that girl dog influencer, so you can find her online as well. But just so thrilled to be able to see her and see where she has become now in her 30s, writing her own book. And I don't even know if I'll be able to read this. I won't read it because I'll start crying again. When I was with her, she got to sign my book, which was so important to me, and I didn't read it right away. And thankfully I didn't, because I was a blithering idiot after this. This is when you know, yes, I've had students that have become just all kinds of great things, teachers and all kinds of wonderful, wonderful things. But this really spoke to me that she wrote a book, and I can see some of her come out in this book. So that is my why. Thank you for indulging. If you want to support an author, go buy this book. She only gets 2% of the earnings on this book. Some of you don't realize that it's not very much. And she's giving away 1% to dog rescues all over the whole world. So excited to be able to share my why. But now let's get going and really talk about what we're here for. And that is to really think about connecting assessment to growth mindset. And Melissa gave you a little highlight of that, what growth mindset is. You've heard this before, growth mindset, fixed mindset, but really thinking about I can keep trying even when things are tough. And I can say, I can't do this yet. And mistakes are going to help me learn. And this is a belief system. And does it come naturally with students? Not always, but it has to be something that a teacher believes in, a school believes in, that climate of belief. And that's something I totally believe in. But I want to change the title just a bit as we move forward and really think about this, is just connecting learning to growth mindset. And how are we going to get our very young, early learners to be able to have that growth mindset? Might not come very easily, but it is something that we can teach them. Absolutely. So I want to just have a little quick talk just to kind of get your idea. I'm seeing so many people from all over the country. I'm here from Dallas, Texas, very sunny. I think it's supposed to be 79 degrees. Last week at this time, I don't even know, it was probably 15 degrees, and it was maybe not that cold, but icing and snowing. And, you know, we don't do well. We just don't know how to do it. But when there's a thin layer of ice, we just stop school because there's no reason to go. So we had 2 snow days last week, and then we're back at it today with 79-degree. So I love being able to see where all of you are from, but I want to put something in the chat box, and make sure when you're doing that chat box that you are making sure that you are doing it to everyone out there and not just the hosts and panelists. So I want us to think about this, and don't hit enter yet, because I'm going to talk to you about how we're going to do this. In what ways do you currently measure student learning? Now, we've got all kinds here. We have coaches here, we have interventionists here, we have principals, we have assistant principals, we have curriculum coordinators, district-wide leaders. So I want you to think about, what is the way that you are currently measuring student learning in the early learning classroom? I want you to think about that. Don't hit enter yet. Don't hit it. So get it in your head right now. You're going to put it in the chat, but don't hit enter until I tell you to. So I'm going to give everybody a chance to just put that in the chat. I keep saying don't hit enter because we're going to do our waterfall, and we're going to have all of them come up at once. If you do a couple of different kinds of ways to measure student learning, just pick one that you think that most teachers or most people in your district are doing, or if you are a classroom teacher, the one that you are kind of hanging your hat on, that you are measuring student learning in the early learning classroom. Okay, are we ready now? So we're going to go to our chat, make sure that you have put that in that chat, and I'm going to count down from 3. 3, 2, 1, hit enter, and let's see what we've got. Performance tasks, we've got circle, we've got map, NWEA map, observations, which is great. Here they keep coming. Oh my gosh. CLI. Some of these you might not be familiar with. Class assessments, that's great. Observation, formative assessments, iSprout, circle observation, lots of observations. Great, that's fantastic. Lots and lots of great things. So I want us to think that through just a little bit. Mid-semester, end of year as well. Student conversations, that's fantastic as well too. And I think that is a way to look at this, as there are so many different ways to measure our student learning. And we're going to talk that through as we get going through our session today. So I want to share with you a conversation that I had with my 4th grade teaching daughter. And of course, this is not working. This just last week, she had an 45-minute planning session with their team. And these are all of the questions that were asked of her in a 45-minute time. Did they get it? What's the next step? Are they ready to move on? What was their growth? How do you know they got? Will they be able to pass the test? all of those in a 45-minute time. And of course, what is she? She's completely stressed out, as most teachers are, as most educators are in this world that we are in right now. Luckily, I get to go spend at least once a week in her classroom working with, and I remind you, I said she's a 4th grade teacher, but she's got kindergarten readers right now. And so when she's getting all of these questions, she's feeling very stressed out. Will they be able to pass the test? Probably not. But luckily in the state of Texas, one of the indicators is how much they grow and how much they progress. So that's fantastic. But I'm thinking, why does it have to always just be on her, on an educator, on the person that is at the ground level in the classroom day after day? And why can't we just change some words just a little bit, change a pronoun or two up a little bit, and change that to, did you get it? What is going to be your next step? Is it time for you to move on? What was your growth? How do you know you got it? And what do you need to be successful? I took out the test question because I'm not going to ask a student if you're going to be able to pass the test. That's not what I got to ask them. But how we can change that just a little bit and shouldering that, not only for that classroom teacher, but also having that kind of almost like a marriage, like a partnership, that they are working on that learning together. So as we go through our time together, I am going to ask the same question a couple of times during this. And as I ask it, I want you to keep drawing on what you're learning, what you're thinking about. And I hope today I'll be able to just put some things in your mind to be able to make some just changes, just some small changes that can happen with very little effort. And that question is, how can students take charge of their learning? And I want us to think about, how can we have students, even our youngest, earliest learners, take charge of their own learning? So some of what I got from putting this session together is a kind of a go-to book of mine by Fisher and Fry and John Hattie, who I may or may not have that educational crush on. John Hattie, I don't know what I'd do if I sat next to him at a restaurant. But anyway, this book, Developing Assessment Capable Visible Learners, they say that what we need are learners who understand their current performance, recognize the gap between their current performance and the expected performance, and select strategies to close the gap. And you might be saying, now, Jennifer, we're talking about 4- and 5-year-olds, maybe 6- and 7-year-olds. How are they going to be able to do that? I think they can. Just like that Megan of mine, who was 6 years old in my classroom, and I felt 100% sure she could take over my class. She knew exactly what to do. So we want to be able to have learners that understand their performance, recognize that gap, and figure out the strategies to close that gap. So in this book, they have put down, Fisher, Fry, and Hattie have put down some characteristics of what they call visible learners. And I'm not going to go through all of these because that would be a whole day's worth of training, all of the different things that we can do to develop assessment capable visible learners. But we're going to really talk about 2 of them in our time together. One is, can they articulate what they are learning? Can students articulate what they are learning? And can they set mastery goals? And I'm going to even push this a little bit farther. And I'm going to can set mastery goals, but also monitor their progress as well. So I'm adding that little bit in there as well. So in my former job, I luckily got to retire having my dream job. I hope some of you in your lifetime will get to have that dream job. But as I worked in Dallas ISD as the instructional strategy director for early learning, we got to go in classrooms all the time, thankfully, just like the happiest part of my week. And when I go into a classroom, depending on you too, whatever role you have, you probably have your certain way of going into a classroom. As I'm going into a classroom, and I had people say, you know, what do you look for? What are you trying to figure out? And first time I'm just walking in the classroom, just kind of doing a little bit of a 360 just to see what's going on. What are the kids doing? What is the teacher doing as well? And then I look around to see, are kids working with pairs? Are they working in groups? Is it a whole group setting? Is it a small group setting? What kind of behavior might be happening? And what is that teacher and how is he or she interacting with those students? And then I do also a look, across the country, in classrooms, in districts, we have teachers who have districts that are having teachers put up what they are doing, whether it be called a learning objective or an I can statement, an I will statement, whatever it is. Everybody's got their own little title for it. But I usually have my eyes go right there and try to find out what is that standard that they are working on, and what is the outcome, or what's the goal going to be after that standard has been taught. I can also tell if that's up, is it a compliance issue, or is that something that's actually being used in the classroom? That is also telltale. And then what I do, and this is probably, the teacher is like, oh, please do not do this, but this is what I do. I go up and ask that student, or maybe this student over here, or this student over here, and I just go to them and I say, what are you doing? And of course, I have probably hit that kid that teacher doesn't want me to go and talk to, but that's probably what that teacher is thinking. Oh, do not ask her, do not ask her, do not ask her. But I'm asking, what are you doing? What are you doing right now? And they can usually tell me that, all ages, 3-year-olds all the way up, they can usually tell you what they're doing. But then I ask another question, why are you doing it? And that's the kicker right there, because most of the time they're like, shrug a shoulder, oh, because she told me to, or he told me to, oh, my teacher said I needed to do this. Usually you've got somebody at the table that can answer that, but not just what are you doing, but why are you doing it? Because if I ask that and a student is able to tell me why they're doing it, then I know that that classroom, students can articulate their learning. They can say, this is what I'm doing, this is why I'm doing it. And even if you feel brave and ask, what do you hope to come out of it, or what are you going to do next, that student should be able to do it. And you might think again, Jennifer, these are 4 or 5, 6. I'm going to show you how it's absolutely able to be done. And all it is just a teacher move. It's taking the time out, a small amount of time, and just having that teacher move. And let's kind of figure out how this might happen. So when we talked about just a minute ago, all these I can statements and I will statements and learning targets and lots of different things about what kids are supposed to learn. And you see them all different ways. I love going into a classroom where it is like 10-point font and it's up on the board and you're like, okay, who is that for? Is that for you as a teacher, or is that for the students? It should be big enough for students. It should also be written on, talked about, and really showing that students are those visible learners. They know what they are going to be learning. So at the beginning of that lesson, maybe even in the middle of that lesson, at the end of that lesson, that teacher is talking through what they're going to be doing in that classroom. And this is all a teacher move. And some teachers might say, I just don't have time to. You have 30 to 40 seconds. You have 40 to 60 seconds to be able to talk through what you're doing in the classroom, why you're doing it, and what the outcome is going to be. And I used another book. This is a great book called Learning Targets. So if in your district, classroom, school, wherever you are, that you're thinking, I see it up there, but I think it's just a compliance issue, then we're missing the whole boat here. And then you need to pick up this book, because this book is going to walk you through exactly how do I get students to understand what the lesson is going to be about today. And so Moss and Brookhart says in their Learning Targets book, to reach a destination, you need to know exactly where you're headed, plan the best route to get there, and monitor your progress along the way. Whether you're that person who knows directions very well and can just drive anywhere, or you're that person that relies every bit on Google, you still need to Google Maps, then you still need to know where you're headed. Google Maps has already planned your best route there to get you there the quickest or the least amount of turns. And then you're going to monitor your progress along the way. If you're like me, you're going to try to beat the time. It's just something I do. But reaching that destination, and that's what we want kids to be able to do. So what I want to do is I want to share with you a quick little video, and you'll see this video that I'm going to share. I'm going to just share part of it, and it's 1 minute and 19 seconds. About maybe about 12 to 14 seconds, she's talking. This is the teacher. And the rest of the time, so about a minute, not even more, she's talking through how to explain to students what they're going to be working on in the classroom. So let's hope that Jennifer set this all right. No, of course I didn't.
Let you know that it can be heard.
Just stop my share for just a second. Give me a minute. My objective is, hold on just a second. You know, first time you do it. I got my sound. Okay, here we go.
Week with them is when we read and we don't know a word, let's circle it and look for clues. Okay. As the year progresses, I'll start to introduce them to the other annotation marks, but for right now, this one's huge. I can use sentence clues to find the meaning of unknown words or phrases. Unknown words, what's that mean? Your language objective is I will explain to my partner how I used clues to find the meaning. I will explain to my partner, and here's what you're going to be saying to your partner. This is also going to sound very familiar, okay? We're going to be talking about what we're going to say when we don't know a word, okay? Let's say, what are we going to say to our partner? Repeat it with me. I think the word blank means blank because, and that's the important part, the because part is those clues that help you figure out what it means, okay? And then your partner has to do something. Your partner just can't sit there and stare at you, right? Your partner also has to say something. Your partner's going to say these words. Either they're going to agree or disagree. And they have to give a reason, right? They can't just say, oh, I agree. Yeah, you're right. Or I disagree. Yeah, you're wrong.
Okay, I want you to think that through. About 1 minute, she explained to her students, I would imagine they looked about like second graders, maybe first graders. She explained to her students what they were going to do, what they were going to do with partners, but what they were going to learn. And less than a minute did that. Was she all organized and ready? She was. She wasn't wasting any time whatsoever. Real quick, in the chat box, tell me, what do you think the best outcome is going to be for those students? Because she took that 1 minute, what is going to be that best outcome for those students? Just write a sentence or a couple of words down in the chat, and let's see your thinking right now. Students have a focus, they know the goal, they're understanding, they're learning, their purpose, ownership of the learning, absolutely. They understand what they're going to do. They have a focus. It also, I love this one, they encourage the students to think. They're going to talk, they're going to be able to support each other. Absolutely. Fantastic. Because she spent 1 minute and explained that, they now know what they're going to do, how they're going to get there. That learning is now on their shoulders. It's not just on hers, and it can't just be on hers. It's not going to be just about what she says, but also how they are able to do that. So now let's think about some of these questions. Where am I going? How am I going to get there? And where will I go next? Those are also very important, but those are student-led questions, because I need to have those students be thinking of themselves in a growth mindset, that my teacher has told me what we're going to be doing. Now I'm going to be thinking, where am I going? Where am I going to go next? And how am I going to get there? So in a classroom, when I go in, I see so many students that are really adult dependent learners. They are waiting for the teacher to tell them what to do. I bet you have been in classrooms, the kids aren't moving a muscle because the teacher didn't tell them to do that. If that's the climate, then how are you going to help the teachers that you support to have that be student-led learning? Student-led learning. So think about that right now in the classrooms that you support, or in your own classroom, or in the district, or in the school that you have. Do you have more student learners or adult dependent learners? Just add that to the chat box. Be honest, because this is not something that is easy to do. But do you have more student learners or adult dependent learners? Got both? More adult dependent learners. Thanks for being honest. Blended, unfortunately, yeah, more adult dependent learners. I get it too, but I'm going to tell you, it's not real hard to just change that thinking just a bit. It really isn't. So if we have adult dependent learners, then we're not going to be able to have kids that can answer, why are you doing this and what are you going to do next? Because they've not been able to take charge of their own learning. And that is what's so important about this. So I'm going to give you a couple of things that we're going to talk through in our next little bit of time together. And here's that question again. How can students take charge of their learning? So if you want to just go back to that learning targets that we talked about, those learning targets, and if that's something that you do in your school, in your district, whether it be a knowledge and you've got your standard up there, it's whatever it's called, a learning objective, or an I can statement, an I will statement, and however you do it, that's where I would start. So you might even say, if you're one of those coaches in the classroom, or going into a classroom, and after you've been and watched a teacher teach, and then you've had some coaching time with you, then you might even ask that question of, do you feel like your students, do they know where they're going? What would make that you believe that they know where they're going? And how can we get them there? And by making a small teaching move as to explain, just like that teacher on the video did, that very quick minute, you're going to have more student learners. So that was one of the things that we are thinking about when it comes to visible learning. And what Fisher, Fry, and Hattie say is that they can articulate their learning. Now I want to move to something else. They also say that teachers should work to develop a learning climate where progress, not status, is celebrated. And like I could say amen on this, right? And I know all of you, all 150 of you that are in here together with us, I know that you believe this is happening, that you believe that this is so, so important, but it might be somebody else that's putting more pressure on you that is saying, no, we got to talk about where are they? Just like my own daughter that is getting those questions bombarded to her all the time. But I want to think about progress, where progress is celebrated. And even with her students that are reading on a kindergarten level, but they are in 4th grade and are going to be having a state test that they will have to pass, she is talking about progress with them. And that is what they are celebrating. And that's what I want to get students to be able to figure out. what can I do to be able to think about where my progress is and how I can celebrate that as well? Now, thinking about what you may be in charge of PD at your school, or you may be in charge of curriculum for your district or your campus, or whatever you're doing. How can you get this reflected in the line of work that you are having or you are doing in this world of education? How can we not only get students to articulate their learning, but also where we can celebrate their progress? So I'm going to give you three, might be four, quick little activities that you are going to be able to do and be able to walk through with teachers, if that's what your role is, on being able to get students to look at their progress, to articulate the goal and look at their progress. So one of them, taken from Jeff Anderson. I have a lot of educational crushes. He's another one. His book that's been around for a long time, 10 Things Every Writer Needs to Know. If you are needing some, just like, I need some good ideas, go back to this book. There are just some great nuggets in it. And one of the things that he does is called power writing. Now, I've adapted it just a tiny bit, don't tell him, but he would probably say that'd be great. Do it so it works for you. And he talks about write as much as you can, as fast as you can, and as well as you can. And I've done this for so many different grades in my own classroom when I was teaching, but also for a district-wide too. We did it as part of progressing and getting better at writing. And take a look, and we're going to try it right now. So I want you to find a piece of paper. You're going to need bigger than a Post-it, but find a piece of paper that you can write on, and something to write with. And I'm going to give you 2 words. And this is the way that Jeff Anderson has it. He gives 2 words, just kind of random words, usually nouns. And I figure out of the 156 people that are with us, I probably have a whole team taco people, and I have a whole team ice cream people. I'm probably going to be on the team taco side. So what I want you to do, and this would be what power writing would be entailed into a classroom, any different level. And I'll talk to you about how it might look for kids that are really not writing with letters and words, but maybe writing with pictures. And I'll talk about that in just a minute. So we're going to write as much as we can, as fast as we can, and as well as we can in 1 minute. So I hope that you've picked your topic by now. Usually when I put this up on the screen, people are like, oh, I'm tacos or I am ice cream. Totally. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to write anything and everything you can think of. And you're writing, because you're an adult writer, you're writing in sentences. You're writing about everything that you know or have been, had any kind of a connection with tacos or any kind of a connection with ice cream, you are writing it. And I'm going to give you 1 minute on the timer. And when I call time, that means you have to stop. So you're going to be writing as much as you can, as fast as you can, and as well as you can in 1 minute. Are you ready? Okay, and go. And stop. Put your pencil in the air, and this is what I do with kids in the classroom. And you're not writing anymore. And what I want you to do is count how many words you wrote on the very last word. Even if you're in the middle of a sentence, it's okay, no problem. I want you to write that number, how many words you wrote, and circle that number. Do that right now. Okay, real quick in the chat box, just tell me, because I'm not with you and I can't see you, write in the chat box how many words you wrote about tacos or ice cream in 1 minute. Oh, 38. Good Lord. That must have been 38, must have been passionate. 48 must have been passionate about, I'm dying to know, tacos or ice cream. I'd love to know that one. Oh, 32 tight. Ashton, oh my gosh, you are fantastic. You are a quick typer. Wonderful. So thinking about this, I've done this with very young students, but also struggling writers. And this is not going to be the number that we have on the very first time we do it. You might have 5, you might have 3, and you might have some kids that just sit because they don't know what to write about. And then what happens is we start thinking about, okay, well, we wrote 5 the last time we did it. Now let's see if we can write 7 words about tacos. And if you do some subjects that kids would be interested in it, you'd be very surprised because they are writing about something that they're really invested in. And then what we do is we monitor that progress. So we monitor that progress. You know, it's like when there we go, and do some kind of a graph. So in my classroom, when we had a writing journal, they had it in different sections. So we might have one section that was just on power writing, and I would have some type of a graph there. And then, and this was also a good way to incorporate some math in here as well. And then they would color or mark how many words they got on that graph. And you can see most of the time, I would say probably 95% of the time, it gets better. But what happens sometimes is that then kids get to be careless. And then I have to remind them of the quote that I said, write as much as you can, as fast as you can, and as well as you can. And writers, we use capital letters, we use punctuation at the end. So next time when you're working on this, you're going to make sure that you are doing that. And what about those kids that are not writers just yet? Those are kids that are almost ready to write. Then maybe you change it up. Instead of power writing with words, you have power writing with pictures. And so they're either going to pick tacos or ice cream, and they're going to draw everything that they can think of when it has to do with ice cream, or draw everything that they can think of when it has to do with tacos. And then maybe you're labeling a word on each of your picture, or maybe even just labeling the beginning sound of those pictures. And then thinking, okay, I drew 5 pictures about tacos. You can do that. And then we move into changing that as our students are becoming better and better at writing, we're changing that into words. Easy way to get students to really take ownership of their writing and monitor their progress. And I'm also going to tell you, kids want to get better at this. Very easy way to do it. So check out that power writing activity in Jeff Anderson's 10 Things Every Writer Needs to Know. Another one, Jennifer Saravallo's Writing Strategies book. Melissa told you that I was currently an adjunct professor at University of Texas at Tyler, and I am teaching pre-service teachers how to teach writing to students. And you all, we are so lucky. This is our textbook. Like, can you imagine being in college and having this as your textbook? I know that when I was back in college a million years ago, this was not the kind of textbooks I had, and we love it. And one of the things that we talk about is setting goals for our writers. Most of the time when I see teachers conferencing with students, whether that be in reading or math or writing, the teacher has a clipboard and that teacher is doing all of the recording. Then do the students see that? Do they know what's going on here? And what I did to change that up is in that journal, one of the last pages of that journal would be our kind of conferencing goal sheets, because I needed to have those students not be dependent on what Miss Burchfiel said was going to be their goal. I needed them to be dependent on that. And so if I'm struggling with always forgetting to put a capital letter of punctuation, maybe that's my goal. And I'm going to put that right there in my goal sheet in my journal, so that when I am writing, I'm always got to be thinking, okay, don't forget, I got to put that capital letter. And then you have some little learners that they even need a Post-it note that says, maybe just has a period and a question mark, and they've got that at the top of their desk because they know that that's their goal. But I love her idea of Joshua's goal here is to come up with ideas, because he's that student that during writing, he's just sitting there because he doesn't have anything to write about, right? You know that one. And so we're going to say, okay, when that happens to you, I want you to go back to your heart map, and I want you to think about, is there something else you could add to your heart map? Is there something else you could pull off of your heart map that you could write about? But just putting these are all very kid friendly and gets them to take ownership. And then she also has it in her reading strategies book as well, but setting goals for readers. So a lot of times we set goals, okay, this is how many books, or this is how much time I'm going to read. But I really like about the kinds of books that I'm going to read. Do you have a student that just really is focused on nonfiction? Not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but how could we say, okay, in the next month, can you try to do one more fiction book? Or maybe you could try a graphic novel here. And then I love the strategy goal. I want to be able to retell the book. And so that is what my reading goal is. These are all small teacher moves that can make a big difference in letting those students have ownership and being able to think about their learning that way. And then the last thing I want to share with you is, how can we do this by having this assessment kind of progress report? So take a look at this. This is an assessment student progress report from Hand to Mind's Hands-on Standards, fantastic resource. And you can see this is a very adult dependent. Now we have to have this. We have to have this kind of thing, but can I also change it? So instead of being this adult dependent, I'm going to have this for me, but how can I make it also student dependent? So can I change those up a little bit? And can I then say, I'm just learning, or I'm almost there, or I own it, or now I'm a pro at it because I can teach it to anybody. And by thinking about how I'm changing this, have my adult dependent for me, for Miss Burchfiel, but then changing it over so that I can change this assessment into how can I do that for my students so they can take charge of their own learning. So I'm asking this question again. How can students take charge of their learning? Because we've been together for about 50 minutes, I've been able to share with you getting kids to be able to articulate what they're learning and why. And I think that all goes back to that learning objective, whatever that teacher is posting on the board, and then talking that through to students. And then I've also shared with you some ways that students can actually take charge of their learning by monitoring their progress, setting goals as well. And some of you already do that. So think this through now. In our time together, I hope you've been able to grab just a nugget or two, maybe 3 ideas that you can, in the line of your work you're doing for the education of our children, what can you do so that students are taking charge of their learning? So think about that for a second, and just drop that in the chat box for a minute. Just drop that in the chat box. Talk about what can you do as an educator to help students take charge of their learning. Christine, I'm going to put that on there. Oh, Melissa, thank you very much. Jeff Anderson.
You saw that. It is Jeff Anderson, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So how can you, what's that one nugget you're going to take from today that you are going to go put back in your line of work so that students are taking charge of their own learning? So it's not just heaped onto the teacher's shoulders, that it is a joint, setting their goals and why. Thank you, Cindy. I love that one. Oh, I love that. Creating checklists. Love that. Really working on that. Knowing the why. Love that too. Love that. Encouraging teachers to change that question, asking why are they doing what they're doing? Letting them track their progress. You can do that just about any way. You just want to change your thinking. That's a teacher move on us. We can absolutely do that. Love that. So I want to tell you, I have enjoyed being with you. I would have loved to have seen your faces. If you have any extra questions that you have for us, please drop those in the chat and we will get those answered as well. Loved being with you. I will be back in a little bit. Love my Crystal Johnson. I see you, Crystal. I see some others of my team, my old team out there, and thank you for joining me. I love that. Don't forget to sign up for the door prize. Kathy just added that in there. I hope that you'll be able to take a couple of nuggets, do just a little bit of tweaking to already the job that you're doing. Thank you so much. Just to kind of put you out, if you have any other questions, feel free to just email me. I'm at jburchfiel@gmail.com. Follow me on Twitter. I'm not always great about it, but I try. I know I can get better at it. So loved having, Eric, miss you too. So loved having you all here with me. And I'm going to pass it on over to the Hand to Mind group because we've got another great session coming up and we've got some door prizes going on.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. That was wonderful. You did a great job. We are going to take a break, and it's going to be a 3-minute break. And then when we get back, Kathy and I are going to talk to you about some great door prizes. So make sure you sign up for those door prizes for the first section. Kathy put it in the link in the chat again, and we'll come back in 3 minutes and get started.